Okay, it is 5:30, so I will call this regularly scheduled meeting to order.
Yeah. I was like,
Good evening,
told
everyone.
me about it.
The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If we'd all please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. I'll seek a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved, Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of our minutes from the regularly scheduled February 22nd meeting. I'll seek a motion to approve.
Move approval, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Is there a
Second, Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the special meeting on March 8th. I'll seek a motion to approve.
So moved, Borgman.
Thank you, Ms. Borgman. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. And next, we have our public comment for the evening. Public comment is regularly held from 5:30 to 6 prior to every board meeting. Patrons must submit a request to make public comment prior to noon on the date of the regularly scheduled meeting to our board clerk, Terry. We have 3 folks speaking tonight, and so you can have your full 3 minutes. The first person to speak this evening is Ms. Lisa Feingold.
My name is Lisa Feingold. I am a parent of an SMSD student, and I'm also an employee. Over the past several weeks, in preparation for the shift out of hybrid, many staff members completed or are in the process of completing vaccinations. While there's a collective sigh of relief, employee participation is not 100%, vaccines are not 100% effective, and precautions need to remain in place to protect students and staff because we are still operating in a pandemic. We've heard erroneous claims that 80% of parents district-wide and guardians want their kids in the buildings full-time. Throughout the school year, many have failed to acknowledge or respect opinions and values dissimilar from their own. Fortunately, the latest phase of vaccine eligibility includes another SMSD population. I've been looking to the future. I'm excited for leadership to meet me where I'm at, and this is what it looks like. Where I'm at is a place of realization that there are hundreds of SMSD students aged 16 and above working in grocery, retail, food service, and daycare industries currently eligible for COVID-19 vaccines who may want them but have difficulty accessing them. SMSD has partnerships with all the appropriate agencies, past success running vaccination clinics on site, and blocks of seminar time on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Is facilitating vaccines for eligible students that want to receive them an option that's being explored? Sorry, Terry, the timer's not going. I'm in a place in the future where it's okay, where it's easier to understand how
That's
SMSD
fine.
board policy is made, where the process is clearly communicated, follows KASB guidance, and includes an avenue for public participation. I'm at a place where SMSD's agenda policy ensures that board members and community stakeholders have enough time to review agenda items and all relevant materials, ask clarifying questions, and receive answers. I'm at a place where SMSD leadership regularly makes unscheduled in-person visits to school sites, observing how their policies play out in the real world without cameras, pomp, and circumstance. I'm at a place where SMSD provides useful, standardized testing information to the community. For example, Spring Hill's district website explains to parents and guardians how to easily opt out their students from taking Kansas assessments. They provide a statement from KASB, easy to understand instructions, and a form letter on their website. I'm at a place where SMSD's words match their actions and where SMSD Strong and Team 512 feel like reality for everyone. I'm looking forward to the future and meeting me where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Amber Hip. Ms. Hip, can you please come to the podium?
Hello, my name is Amber Hip. I have a 3rd grader and a 6th grader at Trailwood Elementary. I have a sheet here of comments asking the board to consider some revisions to the band and strings program. I did just find out that you have been working on that today. While I haven't seen the exact information, I appreciate you hearing us and just have a few more comments on it. First of all, I want to say thank you for your hard work and the tough decisions you all have had to make this year. I know it's been difficult to balance the physical and psychological health of our students. And my request today is not out of criticism of the board, the administration, or the health department. It's just a request for a few adjustments that we think will benefit our children. The first thing I was going to ask for was additional instructional time for students in band and strings by combining classes. And then the second thing that I know is still up in the air is facilitating a performance for the elementary school students. Our teachers have been working extremely hard to keep sixth grade band members progressing and engaged with our instrument. It's been incredibly difficult to progress and even maintain their skills in their 30 minutes of band per week. Without the double week classes, playing an instrument is discouraging and simply not fun. And understandably, many students are planning to quit before middle school. You can imagine the effect that would have on our program for years to come, especially since we're a year behind starting the next group of student musicians. I appreciate that you are open to adjusting the cohort program here so that students can receive double the instructional time. So the only additional thing I might bring before you today is that as far as concerts, the elementary students would be considered for the same opportunities that the high school students are having as far as being able to have a performance. Concerts are an important motivator and reward for these students. The elementary students are actually less vulnerable to the virus, as we've seen. So the fact that we have a plan for high school students to be able to perform in a safe way seems as though we should be able to do the same for the elementary school performance. And I would say this is extra important for the elementary school students because they have not been able to experience what band really is. And a performance would give them a vision for what they're investing in and what their future in our music programs in the Shawnee Mission School District would be like. I appreciate you listening to our comments and investing in the program by making a few small adjustments this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Deborah Rafferty.
I'm Deborah Rafferty. I have been the elementary school music teacher at Rose Hill for the past 14 years. Prior to that, I was at Overland Park Elementary. In addition to my Shawnee Mission duties, I'm an adjunct professor at UMKC where I train their next generation of music teachers to be elementary music teachers. And I tell you that because I want you to know that I come to you with experience and expertise in my area. I live and breathe elementary music, general music, classroom music. And I'm here because I saw that the Arts Our Education resolution is on the agenda for tonight. So I wanted to start by saying thank you. Thank you for considering that. And please pass it because arts are education. And as we enter into this era, which is hopefully post-COVID, where people are concerned about budgets and learning loss, thank you for saying, no, the arts are important. I cannot help but notice that the last line of that actually says that we're committed to maintain and grow our arts education. So I thought, well, maybe you need some suggestions on how to kick off that growth. So here I am. Aren't you excited? Yeah. Okay. So here's number one. It is time to reevaluate the ABCD schedule at the elementary level. It was implemented 5 years ago to meet a very real need, which was that classroom teachers needed consistent quality plan time. And I do not begrudge them that. They absolutely do need that. What happened was that it happened on the backs of the music teachers and the other elementary specialists. There's a reason that music teachers had more plan time. Just if you're what we would call a basic music teacher, you're teaching 7 grade levels plus choir. But we have several music teachers who also teach a 5th or 6th grade band, or maybe a 5th or 6th grade orchestra, or maybe specialty classes. And each one of those requires a different plan. Also, I will say that the switch to the ABCD schedule just was not, well, it isn't good from a music education perspective. Now, in case you're not really aware how that works, those 4 specials, library, art, music, and PE, they meet once every 4 school days, which basically means that 75% of the students have music once a week. And that's just not how music is done. Music isn't done that way. It requires repetitive practice. And so if you're trying to read music, learn how to read music, apply it to an instrument, in my case, the soprano recorder, yes, Satan's little flute. They don't get good at that if they don't practice it on a regular basis. And getting ready for programs, so difficult because they don't have time to memorize music. So I encourage us to rethink that. A second thing, if you really want to be helpful and help us make great music at the elementary level, we need money for accompanists at the music level. My choir is awesome. They know how to sing, they know how to read music, they know how to sing in parts.
Ms. Rafferty, I'm sorry, but your time has ended, and I have to try and maintain the time limits, no matter who it is speaking, no matter whether or not we agree with them, just so that, with
All right.
regards to First Amendment,
All right.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. The rest of the regular meeting will resume at 6 p.m. Okay, it is now 6 o'clock. The next item on our agenda is the superintendent report from Dr. Fulton.
Okay, thank you very much. Great to see everybody this evening. Well, today was an exciting day as we welcomed our secondary students back to full in-person learning. They've been learning in a hybrid model since the fall, but today we brought more students and staff together at the same time. We want to thank everyone who dedicated so much time and effort to every aspect of bringing our secondary students back in person full time. I also want to extend a big thanks to everyone who has been assisting in vaccination efforts. We announced recently that all staff in the district had an opportunity to receive their first dose of vaccine. We also have been helping to host a series of vaccination clinics here at the Center for Academic Achievement, allowing even more people in our community to be vaccinated. We also have shared with families and staff via email that we are following the updated guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. And I might add that while we're done with all the first dose vaccines, we are in the process of completing the second dose, and that'll be done by no later than April 1st. So we're very excited about that. We do have mitigation measures that remain in place. Those are critical for us to follow as we continue to keep our students in school during the day, and also to keep our activities and athletics going as well. Information about guidelines for activities and athletics, including today's updated guidance for the performing arts, is available on our website. We'll have links to that guidance in the board recap. As with all of our COVID-19 guiding documents, we'll update them as information becomes available from the CDC, Johnson County Department of Health, and other health partners. We continue to collaborate with JCDHE to assist in this effort, including monitoring the impact of the new coronavirus variants and how those are progressing in our country and in our county. Well, we want to take a moment to do a big thank you to our PTA citizenship honorees. We're proud that in partnership with the Shawnee Mission Area Council PTA, that we can honor our student winners of this year's citizenship writing contest. Students submitted essays or a poem on the selected theme, Caring for My Community Looks Like, and then they continued on with the theme. SMAC PTA has put together a slideshow to share with us this evening in honor of these student writers, and we'll play that now. Congratulations to all these students, their schools, and family members for their phenomenal work and as they advance to state competition. Earlier this year, we were pleased to recognize student artists who participated in the SMAC PTA Reflections Art Contest. So thank you to everyone on SMAC PTA who dedicates so much time in providing ways for students to express themselves through art and the written word. Speaking of artistic expression, we want to acknowledge that March is Music in Our Schools Month and Youth Art Month. Teachers and students involved in performing and visual arts have done so much this year to adapt and share what they've learned artistically with an audience. We will be sharing this week the recent quarterly virtual art show. You'll also see on the agenda the board plans to approve an Arts Our Education resolution in honor of the important educational benefits that the arts play in our schools. So thank you to everyone who supports art education this month and throughout this school year in the Shawnee Mission School District. Well, we want to kind of give you an update on our Missouri River Relief Sustainability Program. The Missouri River Relief honored the Shawnee Mission School District and its previous sustainability leader with its Inspiring the Next Generation Award. The honor is presented to educators that strive to connect students and teachers to the Missouri River and deepen their sense of river stewardship. The honor reflected the work of retired sustainability coordinator Joan Levins and the partnership of the curriculum and instruction team that has provided lasting opportunities for students to learn in ways that help their local environment. So congratulations to Joan and all the staff that work on inspiring our students to care for our world. Dr. Kenneth Lee, who is the biology signature program teacher, is the recipient of the Tom Stedman 2021 High School Biotech Teacher Award. The honor, given by the Department of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology at the University of Kansas Medical Center, recognizes a high school teacher who teaches hands-on research techniques by providing the opportunity to contribute to original research. He has been recognized for his contributions to his field, for his work as an educator, and student participation in science competitions. So congratulations to Dr. Lee. The Shawnee Mission Northwest girls basketball team just completed a phenomenal season, and we're very proud to congratulate these champions. The Lady Cougars were named the 6A State Kansas High School Activities Association champions. At the championship game, they won with a final score of 61-54 and finished their season undefeated at 23-0. Congratulations to the Lady Cougars of Shawnee Mission Northwest. The National Merit Program has named 13 Shawnee Mission School District students National Merit Finalists. They will advance in the National Merit Competition for National Merit Scholarship Awards. You know, that's a tremendous honor, and we're very proud of these seniors for their outstanding academic achievement. And we'll include a complete list of honorees in the board recap, so congratulations to all of our National Merit finalists. One of Shawnee Mission's biggest showcases of the year is coming up soon, and we invite students across the district to participate. This year's R&D Forum will feature a virtual student showcase and a live-streamed pitch finals competition here at the Center for Academic Achievement on May 1st. The R&D Forum is a 59-year Shawnee Mission tradition where we showcase student work and celebrate student excellence and innovation. Students and staff are encouraged to enter student projects, experiments, or art projects in the showcase of student work. We'll include a link to enter this competition in the recap. This year, we also have an exciting new opportunity for students to enter a pitch competition. We are accepting entries now for the next great idea. In this contest, students have the opportunity to work on a plan with industry professionals win a cash prize, and gain additional funding to turn their ideas into reality. The opportunity is presented with help from partners at Startland. The deadline for entering the pitch competition is Friday, March 26th. However, all that needs to be completed by Friday is a rough draft idea and a filled out entry form. So it doesn't have to be perfect, just get your idea in and on the form. There'll be more time and support provided by industry mentors for the students to further develop their idea and pitch prior to the competition on May 1st. We'll include a link in the recap for all those who want to enter. The entire R&D forum is made possible through generous support of the Rainier family, and we thank them for their long-standing support of this outstanding district-wide event. Well, that concludes my report, but we have some important celebration to do with 2 All-Stars this evening. Tonight, we're pleased to honor 2 All-Stars, and we begin by inviting Principal Rob Shackelford, principal at John Deemer Elementary, to the podium to introduce our first honoree.
Good evening. I'm Rob Shackelford, principal of John Deemer Elementary. I have the privilege and the honor of introducing Mrs. Ruby Reynolds this evening, special education teacher at John Deemer Elementary. Mrs. Ruby Reynolds is not only an amazing teacher, but probably more importantly, an amazing person. She's a true hero, in my view. But what you need to know about Mrs. Reynolds is that she'd rather not be recognized as a hero. She goes about her business daily, quietly, under the radar, and out of the limelight, and that's the way she prefers it. She's a hero to our kids, never giving up on kids, always making sure that they learn and grow socially, academically, and emotionally. She's a hero to parents, building relationships day in and day out, connecting with families. And she's a hero to the staff that she assists and serves as well. So again, Ruby Reynolds would probably say that there are many other people that should be here tonight in her place, because that's Mrs. Reynolds. She's going to identify all the other wonderful teachers that could be here. But I can guarantee you what those other wonderful teachers would say is that the exact right person is here tonight. And so I would like to present Ruby Reynolds. We're gonna watch a video real quick. That was nice. We even practiced this, guys. So we're gonna watch a video first, and then have an opportunity for you to say thank you. So we'd all like to watch the video that's produced by Shawnee.
Ruby is an amazing person who always makes people feel valued. She is a resource teacher here and works with the younger students, helping them with reading, writing, math, as well as social and emotional.
She's somebody that comes into this building early every day and leaves this building late every day. And every single day, she comes in with the intent to give her best, to give 100%.
All she cares about is, what is the best way I can help this child? And it doesn't, like, there's just no, but I thought, or what if I, there's just no ego with Ruby. It is just about the child, you know, which is the dream, right? We're all here for the children, but with Ruby, it's 100%.
Just how above and beyond she goes for her students all the time.
Her heart is so big to each and every student and staff. That is just amazing. I would love to be Ruby Reynolds' kind.
The kids love Ruby. She is extremely warm and welcoming, and I think she's just got one of those personalities that right off the bat you're kind of drawn to her.
We recently had a student move to a different building, and she knew all of his favorite things that he had here and different toys that she had purchased or that had been things that she had brought from home. After he moved to the other building, she packed up every single one of them and put them in boxes and had someone come get them and take them to the other building, because she didn't want him to find new things to play with or new reinforcers that when he already had some that she knew he loved.
The biggest thing that Ruby does that's the most impactful is she just takes care of kids and takes care of families and takes care of staff no matter what.
She is the most dedicated person I think I have ever met. She loves what she does, and she does it for the kids.
I am a parent of a child who receives special education services. I know the feeling of interacting with a resource teacher and kind of the general underlying fear of what's happening in the resource room. Is my child getting what they need? The fact that Ruby is, one, just so gracious, and two, so open about what she's doing and no ego and so kind and caring would make parents just feel safe.
I wish you would have let me talk first because now I want to cry. I just want to say thank you all so very much for this opportunity. I don't have many words to say except thank you, and I do want to start with saying thank you to Mr. Shackelford because the first thing that he lets us know is okay to meet the kids where they are at socially and emotionally so we can help them progress and succeed academically. So their well-being and self-care is first and foremost, and he does that not just for our kids but for the staff. And so I feel blessed. Every day I thank the Lord for my family, for my work family, and for the opportunity to work here at Shawnee Mission School District. This is such an amazing place, and it's so big, but you don't feel small when you're part of such an amazing family. So thank you guys so very much for this. I really appreciate it.
Well, congratulations. It's very well deserved. Now I want to invite Scott Sherman, principal at Shawnee Mission East High School, to the podium to introduce our next All-Star.
Good evening, everyone. It's my honor and privilege to introduce Mr. Clark, our building manager at Shawnee Mission East, as the newest Shawnee Mission School District All-Star. Mr. Clark is a vital member of the Shawnee Mission East team as well as the community. He is a man of high character and well respected throughout the Shawnee Mission East community as a whole. Mr. Clark is a forward thinker who works proactively to find solutions, particularly in COVID times. For example, he set up our cafeteria so that the students have the opportunity to still be with friends. This model is duplicated by several other buildings across the district. Mr. Clark truly cares about our students and staff and makes decisions based upon their needs. You will see in the video the positive impact that Mr. Clark has on our students and staff at Shawnee Mission East. So on behalf of the entire Shawnee Mission East community, congratulations to Mr. Clark on his well-deserved honor.
Ruby is an amazing...
Go for Dale.
He is a hugely important leader in our school building. It's not by title, but the students who are here and those of us who work here know that he's a really important leader. He sets a tone that we care about each other.
He's just more than a building manager. It's just a special part of East where kids can go and just have a talk with someone.
Dale goes above and beyond to make sure that everyone's needs are taken care of at East.
He's a mentor to students. He cares about them, and he's here as part of our team of educators. He's in charge of the building, but he loves the students just as much as we all do.
Well, my brother's an incoming freshman next year, so I make sure to tell him that he needs to get to know Dale. He needs to do his part in the cleaning. If you have a problem, you can always go to Dale and talk to him.
Dale, I consider, instead of a colleague, more of a friend. And when my father passed away, he was one of the first people to reach out to me, express his sympathy. And then he brought one of the best meals I've ever had in my entire life. Just for my family to be able to sit back at that time, not have to worry about making a meal, meant the world to me. This kind of tells you a little bit about the character and how kind his heart is.
Had a big league swing, but a little league eye.
He's come up with some amazing different ways to make this year work and to make kids and the teachers and adults who work here safe. He cares about you. He doesn't walk by you and not say hello. He knows students' names. He knows what they're up to. He knows what's important to them.
And goes out of his way to make sure that the building itself
looks beautiful, that the teachers have all of their needs met.
You know, he's just one of those guys where he cares about this school a lot, and the main thing is about kids and how they're feeling, and a conversation with Dale can literally make your day. So
Dale always is thinking about how to improve the lives of others, even before himself, and he does it with a smile and the kindest, most generous heart of any person I know.
I must reverence God first, and honor to all the board members that are here. And I just want to thank everyone, but I want to say, first of all, thanks to all the staff at Shawnee Mission East. They really support me and the custodial staff, but I really have to give a real shout out to Dr. Sherman. He really supports me and helps me out, and his door is always open to me. And I just want to talk about, right quick, our cleanup crew. Dr. Leonard and Dr. Story and Mr. Haney and Susan Catsby and SRO Seth and Tony. All those guys come into the cafeteria, and they helped me with a job that couldn't be done just by the two custodians there. And I mean, all of them are willing to help. And I'm just so grateful and thankful for all of them and the entire Shawnee Mission East school. The staff there are just unbelievable. They're awesome, and they're always willing to help. And that's the thing. And the students there are just so amazing. You know, I hear students sometime in the cafeteria say to their friends, "Don't leave that for Dale to get." So that means you're making an impact. And so I'm just really grateful for those guys also. And I just thank everyone so very much. Thank you.
Well, for both of our honorees tonight, Mr. Clark and Ms. Reynolds, we just want to thank you for all that you do, and congratulations on this well-deserved recognition.
Thank you. Moving on to the board report. We'll get some recaps from board members. Ms. Borgman, do you have an update for us from Shawnee Mission Area Council PTA?
I do, and that's going to be hard to follow those
special
awards. Yeah, so a SMAC update. SMAC is thrilled to announce and recognize our Citizenship Essay and Poetry Award of Excellence and Award of Merit winners, as was previously mentioned in the superintendent's report, so thanks Dr. Fulton for that. Award of Excellence winners will move on to the state competition, and we'd also like to thank our chairs at the participating schools for ensuring the contest is an opportunity for kids. So thank you so much for that. And then also the SMAC PTA DEI book drive ended yesterday. However, books purchased from the suggested titles may still be dropped off at the clothing exchange on Thursday, March 26th from 4 to 7 p.m. Of the 604 books requested by librarians, over 550 have been ordered. SMAC PTA is reaching out for sponsorships or possible grants to fulfill the final remaining books. And thank you to the SMSD community for an overwhelming and very successful event benefiting kids. PTA leaders also met with Dr. Fulton and Dr. Hubbard last week for an informative conversation about PTA events and spring events. It was very informative, and everyone was pleased with the direction and guidance. So one other thing, the clothing exchange can use some volunteers on Thursdays from 4 to 7. So if you have any NHS students at home, this might be a good opportunity for them. Sign up, go to smacpta.org/volunteer. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Embry, do you have an update for us from the Education Foundation?
I was just going to briefly note, I didn't want it to get buried in the consent items, that one of the things we'll be approving is donations, and that includes the Excellence in Education grants from the Shawnee Mission Education Foundation, These are grants that educators can apply for their classroom, their school, their department, and ultimately they're awarding about $32,000 in grants that'll go to Broken Arrow, East Antioch, Lenexa Hills, Neiman, Rose Hills, Santa Fe Trail, Shawnee, Sunflower, Indian Woods, Shawnee Mission Northwest, and Shawnee Mission West. And I want to thank Shawnee Mission Education Foundation for making that happen, and of course, all the educators who came up with ideas and applied for those Excellence in Education grants.
Thank you. Reverend Guy, do you have an update for us from the KASB Board of Directors?
Yes, we're going to have our board meeting this Saturday. That will still be online. We're starting to move back into in-person things, but not yet. There are several events coming up in the month of April. I want to make sure everyone knows about the NSBA annual conference, which will be online, unfortunately, again this year, but they have some great speakers, including Leslie Odom Jr. and Soledad O'Brien. And so if you want to participate in that online, you need to let Mrs. Wintering know, and she can get you registered for that. That'll be April 8th and 9th. And lots of great workshops and breakouts on all sorts of topics related to school boards. Then KASB is going to have their women's conference April 21st and 22nd. This was originally scheduled a year ago and then had to be canceled. So they are going to do it as a hybrid. They have opened up 100 spots for in-person people to go to Manhattan, Kansas. And so I'm going to be one of the in-person people facilitating a panel conversation, I think, from school boards. But I believe that people can still register for the online portion. And again, they have lots of great speakers. Sarah Smarsh is going to be, I think, the keynote speaker at that. So if you're interested in women's leadership, I encourage you to consider signing up for that conference. And then the spring roundtable for basically the school board members in the Johnson County area will be April 29th. I believe that's also online. But that's another great event where we can talk to other school board members in our county and share things that are going well, share frustrations with people who totally understand, and just a great time of sharing and learning from each other. So you can get those on your calendars, and that's my report.
Thank you. Would you send an email with those follow-up dates, just so that I remember after this meeting?
Okay.
Thank you, Reverend Guy. Ms. Goodburn, do you have an update for us from the Policy Review Committee?
I do really quick. We met on March 4th. We have two policies for your consideration, first and final tonight, which are 6.01, which is policy GAR, and 6.02 JGCC. Our April meeting is having to be canceled because of all the vaccination clinics that are happening in this building. So we will go ahead and have our May meeting. Date, I think, is to be determined. I'll let you know later.
Thank you. And Mr. Stratton, do you have an update for us from the Finance and Facilities Committee?
The next committee meeting will be April 19th. That was moved from a March date because of conflicts with schedules and meeting space and the like. So it'll be April 19th from 4 to 5:30, and it'll be in this building here. We did set meeting dates for June, October, and February as well. So we've got those on the calendar for the next year.
Great, thank you. Moving on to item 2.4, our board financial report. Turn it over to Dr. Fulton and Mr. Russ Knapp.
Okay, great, thank you. And Russ Knapp, our Chief Financial Officer, is going to provide us with our monthly financial report, and then a very brief update on the elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund, otherwise known as ESSER.
Okay, well, thank you and good evening. So attached is the board financial reports through the month of February. I was going to touch on two things tonight. The first one, we continue to monitor our operating funds. On Friday, we got our gas bill, natural gas bill from February, and it was $1.6 million. To put that in perspective, we spent about $600,000 for the entire year for the whole school district. And again, we just got this on Friday, so we'll be trying to get some more information on that. And this is mainly from our natural gas transporter, Symmetry. Okay, so it's not Kansas Gas. Kansas Gas was reasonable, but we buy in the open market natural gas via Symmetry Energy Solutions. So we'll take a look at that in the next week or so, and hopefully some good news can come from that, but right now we would owe $1.6 million for that. We'll continue to monitor the operating funds. Hopefully we'll have savings from vacancies and other lines that will help offset that. If it doesn't, it will come from fund balances, and that's why we have adequate reserves. That's why you took the action you took a few months ago to maintain adequate reserves for these situations. So that's on operating funds. Again, we'll continue monitoring. Then I'm going to jump to the update on ESSER, like Dr. Fulton said. So we put together this chart, and we'll continue to update this as we go through the next couple years. Right now, we're actively spending ESSER 1 money. That was $2.6 million. We have about $387,000 left. We'll probably spend that this spring and start working on ESSER 2. We also got Johnson County Sparks money, if you remember, $1.2 million. That was a reimbursement. That was done December 2020. So both of those will be done by this spring of 21. Then we'll go into ESSER 2. All three of ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3 are based on the Title I formula. We're earmarked to get $11.5 million. We anticipate that being available to us in May or June of this spring. The application process, they'll accept applications March 26th through April 2nd. The Kansas Board of Education looks to approve applications for school districts across the state of Kansas on April 19th. Once that happens, then the money will become available to us to draw down. We have until September of 23 to spend that. ESSER 3, which was just passed by Congress, the KSDE anticipates those allocations being finalized towards the end of April. So if you've seen any amounts that are out there, those are not our final amounts. KSDE will finalize those towards the end of April. I assume maybe there'll be an application process for that as well. The guidelines are pretty much the same. Those 15 use categories that has been for ESSER 1 and 2 will be the same for ESSER 3 with one additional amount. They said 20% of our allocation must be used towards address learning loss. Okay, and that's we can spend that through September of 24. So that concludes my report. Do you have any questions?
And I might add one more thing. On April 12th at our workshop, we're going to have a lengthy presentation on what we're doing on the academic front, as well as social emotional, to make sure that we're meeting students' needs. You know, and these needs are not going to be met just in 1 year. This is going to take multiple years to address some of the academic and social emotional needs of our students. So it's important to underscore that while we're going to be getting funds certainly under ESSER 2 and then more funds under ESSER 3, we're going to need those funds to address student needs. And I know there's some discussion around using that for other purposes, but we need to use it for its intended purpose, which is on students and their learning.
Are there any follow-up questions for Mr. Knapp? Dr. Sinclair?
I just wanted to comment, this table is very helpful on the ESSER dollars. Thank you for putting that together.
Welcome.
Ms. Ember?
Can I ask just a confirmatory question? I know Blue Valley School District has had some lower than expected funding coming in because of new facilities weightings, and they're actually kind of operating, I think, with having to make some cuts going into the next school year. So far, so good. We aren't having any similar issues here. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure.
Are there any follow-up questions? Great. Thank you, Mr. Knapp, for being here tonight. Look forward to the presentation in April. The next item on our agenda is a legislative update from Dr. Stuart Little.
Yeah, and tonight, Dr. Little is going to provide us with our legislative update, and Mr. Smith will be joining him as needed to give you an idea of what's happening in our current legislative session. And there's a lot going on, isn't there?
Yes, true. You have a 10-page report in front of you. Is this on? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. You have a written report for me, and I'm going to go through that and hit some of the highlights here real quickly. I want to thank Dr. Fulton, Dr. Atha, and Mr. Smith for the continued work. I pester them far too often this session. We're having a lot of issues coming up and have to communicate on multi times in a day for a lot of these things that are happening. There's 3 weeks left of the regular legislative session. They will go home on the 3rd or the 9th of April and be back on the 3rd of May for the wrap-up. We have everything from budget to, I think my last count, somewhere near 30 bills that are still alive, which is exceedingly unusual. Usually by this time of the year, and I have a report for you all, it has about 5 or 6 things left, and we're in a very different place this year. Big picture, and then I'll come and talk about some of the education issues and kind of where we are. We are moving forward on, when we came into the legislative session, there were legislative priorities that everybody knew were out there. Fixing the Emergency Management Act, property tax lid addressing, the abortion constitutional amendment, and what came up as well this legislative session was a lot of conversation about non-public schools, and that fits into what's going on. We have budget issues, we have policy issues, and what's complicating matters, and Mr. Knapp just referenced the federal relief money that came in. The federal relief money, particularly I call it CARES 3, but it's this latest round, the $1.8 billion that's coming to the state of Kansas, has added a level of complexity to a budget process, and it impacts the state and what the state budget's doing. It's impacting K through 12, and I'll talk about that briefly, but at a time when you're trying to close the budget and figure out where you are and get your revenue estimates, when you throw $1.8 billion into the mix, everybody starts having conversations about what we want to do differently. And as of yet, in general, we don't know what we can do. And what's going to be guiding the use of the federal funds, we may not know until April, when the legislature is going to be gone. We get a lot of those issues resolved when they come back, which means you're not likely to have the budget resolved in some ways until they get back, to the extent that's an issue. I want to mention one thing in the big picture issues in terms of tax policy and the Emergency Management Act. The Emergency Management Act revisions have been sent to the governor, and she will take action on them at some point. The reason I point that, and I have a description of that on the second page, key relevance for you all is that one of the bulk of the work in the Emergency Management Act was to put the decision-making authority into the hands of elected officials. Whether you're a county commissioner, whether you're the legislature, or whether you're a school board. And so by our reading of what's in the new KEMA Act that's on the governor's desk right now, in the future and going forward, elected school board will have autonomy over making the public health decisions. The guidance from the county will be guidance only, and you will have the authority to make those decisions going forward. And we can get into the details, or I can follow up with some details on that. I would note there are probably about 5 issues out there that I want to just hit the highlights for. Happy to answer any questions. Number one is back to the budget issue. So in the Senate has passed its budget. It's sitting there, and as part of what they did in the budget process was they removed $570 million out of the K-12 budget, state general fund dollars, and added in some of the ESSER funds to fill that hole, with the assumption that if we're not allowed to make that switch, that we will fix that when we come back at the wrap-up session and address what we can do. But they wanted to make that shift and put that into action now, and then see what happens going forward. So they did that for the high density at risk, LOB equalization, and the state foundation, part of the state foundation aid. So that bill is passed out of the Senate. That's a significant change. That's a half a billion dollars that's been shifted over the ESSER funds, and I think we're not sure that we can do that, but we'll see what happens. On the House side, the K-12 budget, the entire K-12 budget is not with the budget bill. It sits in House Substitute for Senate Bill 2119, which has, and there's a summary of this in here, it's still sitting there in the House with nothing done to it yet, but It has the education scholarship expansion. It has the education savings account. It has the punishment for going virtual again and the funding stream. It has the 20 mil renewal, and it has the entire K-12 budget. So the House and the Senate, and the House has not passed their budget yet. So speedy resolution of money and Mr. Knapp being able to tell you what you're going to have, we don't know yet, and it's probably going to be another month or two before the legislature resolves that. There is as well, of course, the bill, Senate bill, House Bill 2119, the bill that has all those components, has not been run. It is sitting in the House, and we've got 3 weeks left to see what happens with that and what might move forward on any of that legislation. I would note something that was of a reasonably high profile in the last week or so. There was a movement to pass a bill that started in the Senate that required every school district to offer in-person full-time education by the 26th of March. This was Senate Bill 235. It passed the Senate, it got to the House, came out of committee very quickly, was brought up on the House floor and was killed. And the House committee went back to committee, redid the bill, made it not apply to any year except this school year, because there were lots of concerns about what happens with the snow day, what happens with the power outage, what happens if you lose natural gas again, any of those kind of things. So they only made it apply to this year, and they moved the date back to the 31st. They debated that bill on the House floor this morning, and they will take final action on it tomorrow. I suspect the bill may pass tomorrow morning, but it's essentially, with a couple of exceptions, most school districts are already offering an in-person full-time option for education. But that's still hanging out there. Another bill I would mention that is House Bill 2089. This is a bill that we've watched for a while, that's come up for a number of years, that is discretionary in a school district providing in-school firearms training. And that bill has not passed for a number of years, and this year it was passed through kind of a committee procedural process that did not have a hearing, so there was an opportunity for anybody to come in and testify on that bill, but it passed out of the House. It's optional, you don't have to do it, but if you do it, you have to use the program that is approved by the State Board of Education, and that's the Department of Education, and that's a program that is a mixture of an NRA program and a Kansas Wildlife and Parks hunter safety program. So that's something that's now over in the House, and we'll see what happens there. The last issue that I want to emphasize, and this has the potential to monkey with the budget process yet again, one of the things that local governments have been fighting for about 5 years is a repeal of the tax lid, which put a lid on local units of government, with the exception of schools, that they would have to, if they were going to raise property taxes, had to have a public hearing, vote for it in public, go through that process. And what happened was this year the legislature finally passed a bill that repealed the sales tax, or the property tax lid. And now if you collect any assessed valuation, you have to have a vote on it. You used to be able to have the assessed valuation would bring in a certain growth percentage or less, and that was collected. The very last action on that bill when it passed out of the House was that they added school districts into the bill, because everybody was clamoring, if we're small, we don't want to be a part of it. They added schools in. So the bill was passed in the Senate. When it got over to the Senate concurred with it, sent it on to the governor. The governor has it. She will likely sign it. But it doesn't, in many ways, operationally work for a school district compared to a local unit of government that's even on a different budget cycle. So there was, when the bill passed in the House, or in the Senate, the chair of the Senate Tax Committee said, we're going to have a hearing and we'll fix it. And so we have, again, just as late as this afternoon, conversation in the Tax Committee about how do we fix this. I do not suspect we will be exempted from the tax lid. Of course, for everyone, the tax lid doesn't apply to us because we're bound by the appropriation that we get, and we can't spend more if we wanted to raise more. And so, but the challenge is going to be, part of what the objective is to get all taxing entities onto one document. And so when you would have a budget hearing, you would know if you live in Fairway, Kansas, what your city property taxes, what's your county, what's your school district, what's your water district, all those kind of things. Have it in one place. And if you're collecting more revenue, you'd have to have a vote on it. You all vote on the budget. It's all part of that process. It makes the process more complex, but local government doesn't have a tax lid. We're going to be added into that, and I suspect tomorrow there's supposed to be a presentation of a comparison of school district budgets, local government budgets, and how can we fix that. So we're not going to be exempted, I don't suspect. We're going to have to live under it, but the process is still to be worked out. Again, that'll make Mr. Knapp's life harder as well. The last thing I would mention that's still out there, and there's a lengthy list of other bills, and I'm happy to talk about them, but those are kind of the major ones. The 20 mills statewide that raises $750 million for funding of public schools has not been reauthorized yet, and that it's in the House Bill 2119, but it's also in another bill in committee now, and in the Senate bill that will happen. There's not a $750 million of cash to fill that around, but that's still part of the mix as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions. There's a lot of things still moving around, though, at this point.
It's always nice to have you here. It's not always nice to hear the things you have to say. It's an interesting line you walk, Dr. Little. Thank you for being here. Do we have questions for Dr. Little at this time? Brad.
So the last part you just talked about, the lid, is it raising the mills that would cause the hearing, or just simply by an assessed valuation that increases, that creates the tax bill to go up, that would cause all entities to have to do a hearing process?
I appreciate the question. So under the tax lid, you could sit there, let's say you're City A, and you could sit there and the assessed valuation went up in your community by 5%, and you picked up then so that the collections of whatever the mill levy was were, brought in an extra $5 million. Your budget saw the gain of that $5 million because you didn't increase your mill levy. And that's what the tax lid was based on. If you increase your mill levy, you have to do that and allow the capturing of increased assessed valuation. And that's how it operates in a lot of places. The issue now is they now have the term that's in the bill that's in front of the government that's called revenue neutral. And your budget can be approved without having to go through these procedures. You still have to do lots of the procedures reporting, but you have to report that you're going to be revenue neutral, which means even if your mill levy stays the same, if the amount of revenue that is collected, so that assessed valuation, you would have to go through that process of documenting, we are going to keep the same mill levy, but that's going to generate another $5 million, and we have a public hearing, and it's the budget process as normal, and then you would have to vote on it and authorize that. So it's an attempt to clarify and emphasize that if assessed valuation is part of additional tax revenue that's being expended.
Thank you.
Dr. Sinclair?
Thank you, Dr. Little. When I think about the litany of issues that you discussed and turning around and talking to patrons and parents of Shawnee Mission and staff and fellow board members. So the two things that kind of jump out at me is one around the school finance formula. So there's a lot of potential changes to the actual formula that's still under the Gannon School Finance. It's still under oversight, correct, with the courts. And so maybe one message might just be to, what can we say? To stay the course, to focus on restoring funding to keep the promise that was made with the Gannon Agreement, continue to fund our public education so that we restore those dollars to adequate levels by 2023. I didn't.
Your assertion is correct. The Supreme Court still has jurisdiction over the resolution of the Gannon lawsuit until these last 2 years of we referred to it as the inflation factor. That was kind of that last phase where we've got to add these inflation, and it's about $120 million this year and about $180 or $60 million the next year to get to that point. The big challenges, and this is the conversations we're having, is after everything that we've been through in the last year, a little stability and predictability would be nice. Mm-hmm. And if we can get some of these policy issues resolved, get the budget process moving through quickly and easy, that makes it a lot easier to address some of the issues like you must be back to school by March 31st. We have to deal with all these other issues. And so I think that's the important message is, we can make decisions about what some of these policy choices, but we need to have a budget resolved. We need to be able to move forward. We need to figure out where you need to spend the ESSER money so you can get kids into the school again in the fall and be more closely back to normal. So, yeah.
Thank you. Stability and predictability have been critical for the district, I would say, to implement the strategic plan and be able to bank on the 5-year plan that we have ahead of us. So that would be very critical for our district moving forward.
I had some questions. I caught some of the debate today on, I think it's Senate Bill 235 in the House on the full-time in-person option by March 26th.
Right.
I heard it passed by voice vote. Did they do final action? Because I missed that. Did they do final action today?
Substitute for Senate Bill 63. They had to stick it in another bill. They moved it to final action on voice vote, but they will vote tomorrow morning.
So they haven't voted on it yet?
Correct.
One of the questions today that was raised was, it's not just that that districts are required to offer a full-time in-person option, because we're doing that and have been on track to do so because of the vaccination schedule we set up with Children's Mercy. But the question was, if you had signed up for online only learning for this semester, would this bill then require the district to allow you to switch to in-person at this juncture? Because when we made our schedules and created our online program, we created 2 master schedules, two separate programs. And so administratively, if you have to open it up to in-person for folks who signed up to online, then there's a whole administration piece that goes with that. The answer today on the floor was that it would, but I don't know enough to know that it does or not. Do you know if that is correct?
Well, I will say this. The bill is very short. It's maybe 5 lines, and it basically says school districts will have an full-time in-person option by this date, by the 31st. And so there's no guidance in there about going back and doing anything. There is no guidance about if there's been an option presented, an option has been presented. And I think that was part of the conversation that took place at the well today in the House was, that school board, that's a school board decision making those decisions, and there's nothing that, and that was a part of the Senate president. It's his bill and his comments always about it. We're not going to try to make this hard. We're not going to tell you exactly what to do, but we want to have a full-time in-person option by a date certain. And so that's the guidance that there, and I think everything else is up to you all to make those decisions.
And all the districts already have that at this time, don't they? All the districts in the state already offer that?
My understanding is that there may be a couple that do not.
Okay. On the ESSER funds, were there caveats in the ESSER funds from the federal level as there was in the Relief Act that just passed? The Relief Act had a clause in it that tax attorneys have been looking at that prohibits you from utilizing those dollars from providing state tax cuts, so tax cuts at the state level, so that if the funds coming from the feds are used then to replace dollars that are cut from state tax cuts, then the federal government can claw back those dollars. Is that something that is potentially at risk with the previous dollars that were provided to us, or was that the first time that has been referenced? Do you know?
I from the first couple of rounds, and I don't know that this is directly and specifically ESSER, if this is all of the bigger package that came to the state, but the assumption was that none of this was for revenue replacement, and then I'll say until the last one here, none of this could be used to replace lost revenue, do any of those kind of things, and it had those limits on. And I think the ESSER money was focused on Title I and to be providing services of pandemic. This is different, this new round, and that there is more flexibility. The one rule that I have heard repeated over and over is you can't cut spending or cut taxes and stick this money in. And so it can be used in a variety of ways, but I haven't seen that guidance spelled out. So I think what you're describing is in general the understanding of how I think these funds are being discussed in Topeka. But I think one of the issues, referencing full circle back to my comments about the Senate committee sticking $500 million of this money into this, they did that, and the assumption was if we were told we can't, we can switch that when we get to omnibus, when we get to the wrap-up session in May.
Right, because there was was it a 500 million tax cut that passed the Senate? And then the budget, when it went through K-12, they put the policy and the budget in the one document under the assumption that they were replacing, they were taking state dollars out and putting these relief dollars in. So if that ends up being something that they are not able to do, we could then end up not having a budget for 2.5, 3 months, or having any idea what the funds look like, because if they have to go back and undo what they did. I'm sorry, you're looking at me like I'm confused, but I guess I'm just concerned that if they're going to be told you've replaced state dollars with these relief package dollars and you're not allowed to do that, that money has to, it can't replace state tax cuts.
Right, and that is the assumption that I think is being used up there, and my hesitancy is that I think these are, fundamentally unanswered questions for the budget folks, and they don't say they have answers for that. And honestly, I'm not sure that I've seen anything out of the administration saying here's what these are. But we did want a couple of the basics are you can't cut taxes and use this money to fill a hole, and if you're going to replace it with something, there's got to be a logical reason. So I would agree with you. This is very much an unresolved issue, and that's why I was led off with this is the very uncertain how this will play out, and the potential to not have this done or answers until we get back to May opens up the door to how quickly can it be fixed and turned around. What may be frankly the political cost and the practical cost, and what might get drug into that conversation could be significant as well. So yeah, it is an issue that is very unclear that this is what we can do.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any further questions?
I was going to briefly ask, it sounds like Senate Bill 13, this property tax, new procedures around property tax increases, is sort of a done deal. Is that accurate?
I believe the governor has said she will sign it, yes.
So can you give us a flavor for what those procedures will look like for school districts if we are incorporated into them?
Well, in a nutshell, is there becomes a series of deadlines in the budget process, and I'm going by memory because I wasn't preparing to do this, but June 15th, county clerks have to set what the budget process is going to be, or what the assessed valuation, and that's June 15th, and then by July 15th, I think it's July 15th, there needs to be, the local units have to come to some decisions of what their mill levy is going to be, and then you have to have a hearing. Your public hearing process has to be concluded by, I think, the beginning of September. And so there's kind of there's other iterations of budget timelines in there, but it kind of puts that structure in place. And so and Mr. Knapp may be able to talk to this more, but the correspondence with where you all in putting together a budget doesn't necessarily jive with that, I think, particularly in August.
Yeah, so the cities and counties, their fiscal year is on a calendar year. So they end in December, ours is June to July. Our budget is due to the county on August 25th. I believe in the bill, the timeline was like by September 20th, you have to have your hearings completed for this revenue tax bill. So that's not going to work for school districts, timing-wise.
Thank you.
I don't have any further questions, and I'm not seeing any further. So thank you so much, Dr. Little. Appreciate your work.
Thank you.
In giving us the update. I had more fun during the All-Star Awards.
Yeah, it's a little bit more challenging.
Yeah. All right. Item 3.1, approval of consent items. Barring any member wanting to remove anything from the consent agenda, I will seek a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move approval, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. We move on to our action items. Item 6.1, it's the approval of revised board policy GAR. It's a first and final reading, so I'll seek a motion, get a second, and Ms. Goodburn can give us an update on the changes. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms.
Second,
Goodburn.
Borgman.
Thank you, Ms. Borgman. Okay, and go ahead and give us an update on this, Ms. Goodburn.
Basically, if you look at the policy, there's been a few changes to it. KSB recommended changes, and also our staff has vetted it, looked at it, and so the amount of changes are minimal, so we are asking for approval tonight, first and final read.
Okay. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Same for item 6.02, approval of revised board policy JGCC. I'll get the motion in the second, and Ms. Goodburn can give us an update.
I'll move approval, Goodburn.
Thank you, Ms. Goodburn. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. Go ahead, Ms. Goodburn.
The former one was the staff, and this is the student version of this policy as well. Makes the same kind of edits that you saw in the first one. Basically, it's KSB recommended, and our staff has vetted it.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item 6.3, we have our approval of our education resolution. I'll get a motion in a second. We'll have Reverend Guy read the resolution, and then we will vote.
So move, Borgman.
Thank you, Ms. Borkman. Is there a second?
Second, Hembry.
Thank you, Ms. Hembry. Reverend Guy, if you could share the resolution with us.
Arts Our Education Resolution. Whereas all students have the right to an arts education that includes media arts, music, theater, and visual arts taught by certified arts educators in partnership with community providers. Whereas arts education has the power to change students' lives. Whereas arts education is a key to reigniting students' learning in a post-COVID-19 world. Whereas arts education helps nurture healthy, inclusive communities where all points of view are respected. Whereas arts education experiences help students understand their own cultural roots and appreciate others' cultural roots and traditions. Whereas arts education supports the social and emotional well-being of students and fosters a more positive, safer school environment. Whereas arts education is part of the well-rounded education for every student as outlined in the Every Student Succeeds Act and in state law. Therefore, Shawnee Mission School District pledges to maintain and grow our arts education programs in the 2021-22 school year and beyond.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you again. And then item 6.4, the resolution to sell general obligation bonds. I'll get a motion in a second, and then Dr. Fulton will give us a brief update on this item. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Is there a second?
I'll second, Sinclair.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Dr. Fulton, can you provide us information on this?
I sure can. Actually, I'm going to have Russell Knapp do the introduction.
You bet. So, we passed the bond referendum back on January 26, $264,220,000. And so tonight's action item is one of the first things on your, the process to approve the selling of new construction money, and we'll also have the ability to do some refunding. And I have David Arterberry here. As you know, he's our financial advisor. He's with Stiefel and Nicholas, and he's going to come to the podium, and he's going to give you a rundown of our financial plan and the timeline that we need to go to approve the process. So, David.
Thank you, Russell. Appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. And first of all, congratulations on your successful election. As I was talking to Dr. Sinclair before the meeting, anytime you can pass a bond resolution during the middle of a pandemic with a tax increase, with over 78% of the vote is really something, quite a statement, quite an achievement, so congratulations. As Russell mentioned, what we're in the process of doing right now is gearing up for the sale of the first series of bonds from the bond election. And I think I had mentioned when I was here late last year that you might also have the opportunity to refinance some of your existing debt simultaneously to achieve some savings. And unfortunately, interest rates, even though they've gone up a little bit recently, have still held and are still at a level that will allow you to achieve some savings, assuming that interest rates can kind of hold here within the next month or so before the bonds get sold. The slide in front of you attempts to show a snapshot of what each of two separate series of bonds looks like. And let me just kind of go over these really quickly with you. If you have any questions as I'm doing this, though, please feel free to just raise your hand and chime in rather than wait to the end. The green box there on the left-hand side represents what I'm referring to as Series 2021-A bonds. And these bonds consist of two pieces, $132,110,000 of what I call new money bonds. So this is the first half of the bonds that were approved by voters back in January. Those bonds, we structured them as was anticipated during the election to have a 20-year maturity. So the final payment on those would be due in 2041. And right now we estimate that the interest rate is about 2.43% on those bonds. In addition to the new money bonds, the school district also has an outstanding 2012 bond issue that is actually callable right now. Those bonds have an average rate on them of about 2.41%, and they go out to 2025. We estimate that those could be refinanced right now down to a rate of about 0.39%, so 2 full percentage points lower. That would generate about $888,000 in savings. A lot of times when we do refinancings in the municipal bond business, we like to look at those present value savings as a percentage of the amount of debt that's being refinanced. And in this case, those present value savings are about 3.4% of the amount refinanced. Just to let you know, the benchmark usually is somewhere around 2 to 5% present value savings. So this is sort of right in the middle of what I think people consider the range of an acceptable level of savings to be. The yellow box actually represents a completely different bond issue. I'm referring to it as the 2021B bonds. And this is another refinancing. Now you'll notice in that yellow box above it that we've got the term taxable next to it. And the reason we have those as taxable is typically when the school district or any school district issues bonds, they issue tax-exempt bonds, meaning that the interest on those bonds, the investors who receive those interest payments don't have to pay income taxes on it. As a result, that allows those bonds to sell at a very low and attractive interest rate. Now, the problem with the refinancing of the 2015 bonds is that those bonds are not callable yet. And since they're not callable, the IRS won't allow you to issue new tax-exempt bonds to refinance those bonds. You can only issue tax-exempt bonds to refinance old bonds that are callable. But you can, however, issue taxable bonds. And so that's what we've anticipated here. Now, taxable bonds do carry a little bit higher interest rate, but we're anticipating that even with that higher interest rate, there still should be a pretty significant amount of savings. So what the Series 2021B bonds would involve is issuing about $87.54 million of taxable bonds, combining that with the $9,850,000 that you've already have into your budget to help pay off bonds early, and use that money to defease a portion of your 2015 bonds. And that portion has an interest rate on it of about 4.8%. By doing those two things, taking that budgeted money and the refinancing, we estimate that you could reduce your future debt service payments by right about $17.9 million, just a shade under $18 million. On a present value basis, that would be about 6.27%. So that's a kind of a long-winded, I think in the weeds explanation of the issue, but I wanted to just kind of let you know the financing plan that we've developed and make sure you kind of just see what the different components of it are and see if you have any questions.
Are there any questions? Mr. Stratton?
So I've got two questions that kind of go into one, and that is, first of all, I appreciate the creativity of trying to figure out how to refinance as much as issue new bonds here. Is there an equal appetite for tax-exempt bonds and taxable bonds for municipality? And I assume it's the institutional market, or is it retail too?
Yeah, there really is a strong market for both of them. A little bit different market. I think the taxable bond market, the tax-exempt bond market really tends to focus on high net worth individuals and a lot of insurance companies like property and casualty insurance companies. The taxable market is a little bit different. I think that tends to focus on purchasers who normally buy treasury securities because these are, even though they're not guaranteed by the U.S. government, they are very highly rated bonds. And so it is a pretty broad market. And right now, I think probably about 20 to 25% of the entire municipal bond market is actually taxable municipal bonds these days.
Thank you. And a follow-up to that is, back in 2015, we benefited from where rates were and pricing, and we actually sold bonds at a premium, and then we were able to pick up additional dollars for the district to use on projects that weren't part of the original issuance or the bond total. Are we in a market where we potentially could also sell bonds at a premium and pick up additional dollars for our projects?
Yeah. The tax-exempt bonds, I anticipate that given the current market conditions that will be possible again, and that you will be able to generate premiums, so probably somewhere equal to 9 or 10% of the principal amount of the issue. The taxable bonds, in that case, since the taxable bonds are refinancing bonds, to the extent that there's premium generated, that premium has to be used to actually reduce the size of the bond issue, and you can't use premium from the taxable bonds to create new money for new projects.
Great. Thank you. And to kind of reiterate that, because it's a really, I guess, neat or nice part of this. So when we're looking at approving a $132 million offering, we very well could pick up another $13 million, is what you're saying, in additional dollars to be utilized for projects in the district above that number.
Yep.
I think sometimes that's missed, so that's a pretty big number. And then lastly, a kudos to Russ and the finance team and all the decision makers in the district, because the whole reason that we have these very attractive interest rates is because we have a very well-run district to maintain a really good bond rating. So I don't want that to be missed too. This math would not work as well if we didn't have a really well-run financials in our district. Thank you.
I might add to that briefly, it's very timely that we are going to have that money available to us, because we are seeing a real rise in construction costs beyond what our initial estimates, and that's just a function of where the market is for materials right now. And I don't know, Dr. Atha, if you want to add to that or not, but it's helpful because then you can make sure and meet your obligation for all the commitments that you've made for current projects. how much might be available for additional ones is yet to be seen. So, I don't know, Dr. Rather, if you want to do that or not.
I think Dr. Fulton is exactly right. We are a little bit surprised with the increase in construction cost and lumber. Lumber is up well over 65%. Steel's up 25%. And we were hoping that this would settle down a little bit, but we're about ready to put both Westwood View and John Deemer out to bid here in the next few weeks. So hoping to get ahead of this, but doesn't look like we did at this point, but we'll see how the bids come in.
We'll see what the pandemic does to the market, both now and in the future, the next couple of years.
Well, I'm not seeing any further questions at this time, so thank you for joining us this
Well,
evening.
actually, I apologize. There is another slide I wanted to real briefly go over
Yes,
with
please.
you. This is just a brief schedule of the issuance process for the bonds. And you'll see on there, it starts off with the board passing a resolution tonight authorizing proceeding with the bond issue. We've got a rating call scheduled with Moody's Investor Service on April 20th. If things go as planned, the offering document, the preliminary official statement, will be completed and distributed to investors at the beginning of May, and the offering and order period for the bonds and interest rates would then be set the week of May 10th. After that would return to the board at their meeting on the 17th, where you'd review the final results and you'd pass the final bond resolutions. And then finally, money would be delivered to the district on the 3rd of June. So that's kind of a brief schedule. The resolution you have in front of you tonight specifically approves the use of the offering document. It approves staff and us and legal counsel to go out and do everything necessary to proceed with the offering. It also sets some parameters for which, if they are met, the board president can sign a purchase agreement. And why this is important is because we want to make sure that when we return to you at your meeting in May, that the interest rate on the bonds and the savings from the refinancing meets your expectations. So for instance, on the new money component, right now, we estimate that the interest rate is about 2.43%. One of the parameters that was set was that if the interest rate goes above 3%, the board president can't sign the purchase agreement. So this sort of allows the market to move up about 0.5 percentage point, and we'll still proceed with the offering. But if it goes up above that, we will return to you in May with an update, and then you can decide how you want to proceed. So the parameters kind of provide some cushion to make sure that the interest rates don't run up considerably and you end up with a lot different result than what we've shown you. The refunding, the minimum parameter for savings for the smaller refunding, which was at about $888,000 in savings, that parameter has been set to about 2% present value. So in other words, the savings, if they drop below about $575,000, we won't proceed with the refinancing. The taxable issue, right now we estimate the present value savings at about 6.27%. If that comes in under 4%, we'll hold off with the offering. So those are just some parameters that I wanted to make sure you were aware of, that should interest rates jump up, we might delay some or part of the issuance.
Thank you. Sure. Are there follow-up questions at this time? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So we can go ahead and vote at this juncture. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. I appreciate the information on the fees, the defeasible fees. I feel like there's a Dr. Seuss book in there somewhere on defeasible fees. It's appreciated.
Sure, thank you.
Moving on to comments from our board members. We'll start with Ms. Hembry and move our way around.
No comments from me.
Thank you. Ms. Goodburn?
I wanted to let you all know something that happened today, and it wasn't in Dr. Fulton's report, but I'm sure it will be next month. Hannah Neal Morinville, you may have heard that name from Shawnee Mission North. She was named today as a Coca-Cola Scholar for 2021. The only one from Shawnee Mission, only 3 in the entire state. 150 high school seniors nationwide have been named this. That's less than 1/6 of 1% of the applicants were chosen. 99,403 applicants. It's very prestigious, and it recognizes superior leadership, service, and academics. And I just saw this on Twitter this afternoon. I just was so excited about it that I thought I better bring the word to you. So it's very, very exciting. Hannah Neal Morinville. So remember that name.
Thank you. I just want to say congratulations to all the educators and students who participated in their full first in-person day since over a year ago, before we went remote. So it seems like we've made a real big milestone today. Of course, that's not all our students. We do have our students who are in their online programming, but it does feel like we've come to the other side of that fulcrum somehow, like we're heading in a positive direction. So I'm very thankful for that, and I hope the day went well for everyone, and I appreciate all the work everyone did to get us to this point, and look forward to doing all the rest of the work to getting us back to where we were. So thank you. Dr. Sinclair?
I encourage our Shawnee Mission parents and patrons over the next couple weeks to reach out to your state legislators and encourage them to stay the course with this school finance formula agreement that was established 3 years ago, and to restore our funding so that we can provide rigorous educational experiences for all our students, and to keep those dollars, public dollars, in our public schools that open the doors for all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stratton?
No comments, thanks.
Thank you. Reverend Guy?
I just want to thank all the arts educators out there. We had our resolution tonight about arts are education, and I know my 2 children benefited so greatly from all of the arts educators that they had, music, drama, visual arts, all of it. So thank you to those educators who work so hard and help bring the arts to our students. That's all.
Thank you. And Ms. Borgman?
Yeah, congratulations once again to the Shawnee Mission Northwest Lady Cougar basketball team. To go undefeated in a season is outstanding. It's the first 6A championship title in school history, so it's special. So congrats once again to the entire Lady Cougar basketball team.
That's
and
awesome.
Go Jayhawks.
And go Jayhawks.
I did not say that.
All right, well, that concludes our meeting for this evening. We do not have an executive session after this meeting, so we are adjourned. There is no further business, and thank you all for your time.